second session of today. Jane is a returning speaker for IDTX. She was here at the very first event. And once again, we're talking about Camtasia. And this time I made a bit of a special request because those who know me know I love video as a format. I think it's fantastic. I think it's underutilized or poorly utilized in too many situations, and so this session is all about interactive video. So I'm not going to take too much time babbling on. I'm going to hand over to you, Jane, but I'm going to stick about for a little bit of a chat at the start. And everyone out there, please do get involved as well. The more involved you get, the more everyone gets out of these sessions.
Absolutely, Tom. And thank you so much once again for a very warm welcome. It's been an absolutely fantastic couple of days. I've got quite a few to catch up on replay. That work thing just gets in the way, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
But no, thank you so much for inviting me back. And you know that I live and breathe Camtasia. I make videos, and it was a brilliant topic to think about interactive videos. So last time I did sort of productivity tips, how I do my setup and things like that. But interactive videos are becoming more popular, aren't they? And people find, how do I do this? What can I do? What are the possibilities? And so this next 45 minutes really is discussing what we can do with Camtasia to make our videos interactive. But first of all, I am going to be asking the audience. I'd really love to get your feedback and invite you to use the chat facility today. We have a slight delay, but I'd be really interested to find out who uses Camtasia here. I'm assuming most of you, if you are attending a session specifically on Camtasia, but maybe you are just curious about what it can do. So you've got the chat. Tom, you use Camtasia, I think.
Yeah, I don't use it as much as I should, is the honest truth. I bought it on the recommendation of a good friend in the industry, Joey Sennett, who loves it. Absolutely loves it. It's his go-to tool. And I must admit, I bought it and then didn't use it for a solid 3 months, and then found myself on a laptop with no other video editing software and found that it was brilliant. And kind of went, why have I not been using this previously? Why am I struggling through very simple jobs in Premiere that take twice as long?
Well, let's see if we can change that after today's session then, Tom. We've got Morgan with us, and I know Morgan is a user as well and joined us last year. So welcome back, Morgan, and thanks for joining again. And a couple not using it, but maybe looking for insights about the capabilities. And so thank you for joining us this morning. So for Tom and Morgan and anyone else in the chat, if you've used Camtasia, where are you aware that you could actually make interactive videos? It had interactive capabilities.
Yeah, so I think I know I'm aware, but I can't say that I've used them yet. I think my adventures into Camtasia have been basic, to say the least, thus far.
That's absolutely cool. So many people don't even realize. They think, oh, it's just, Camtasia is just a screen recording video creator tool, which absolutely that's how it started. We've got a few here joining that have used it with a bit of interactivity. Mo using it a lot. To be honest, my main use is screen capture. That's the videos that I'm a systems trainer and I make screencast tutorials. Sometimes, there isn't the need for interactivity, but yes, so we're going to explore. So what we're going to do shortly, I'm going to share some examples and then we're going to jump into Camtasia and I'll show you how they were made. But a question for you, what do we actually mean by an interactive video, do you think? What would you say? So again, I know there's a little delay in the chat, but if we just give a little minute. So Morgan was saying that he was aware there is interactivity. Oh, Claudine, your first introduction, very welcome. Hopefully you'll find it really, really useful. So what would you say? What would the definition be? What do you think when we talk about interactive video? What does it mean to you? Morgan, engagement and attention. Absolutely. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, for me, it's sort of it's a video that's supporting maybe user interaction, enabling the viewer to be able to interact with that video. Yeah, Suzanne, excellent. Maybe when I have something to do like clicking or voting. Excellent. Really, really good responses there.
I always think it's the interaction kind of. I suppose it's more of a pet peeve within it, is that the interaction's about supporting the narrative and bringing you into it rather than being a kind of spectator.
Yeah, a passive viewer. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, here we go. Morgan kind of makes it, but they're more active learning. Yeah, exactly that.
Hello, all the way from Sydney. Welcome. Really global conference today, Tom. Thank you so much for enabling this for everybody. Mutual relations, that's an interesting one. Excellent. So having either created interactive video or used interactive video, what sort of are the benefits? Why would we do interactive video, do you think? We've covered a few of them here. So covering engagement, active learning involving the viewer. Mo, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name right, Mo. Yeah, branching scenarios, telling stories. We've had a few. If you've attended some of the other sessions, we've had quite a few on branching scenarios. Wow, you're from Egypt. Welcome.
And thank you for staying up or getting up, wherever you are in the world right now.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the things that I was thinking of benefits is sort of reinforcing that learning. So if you're using maybe a quiz, just, check in. Do you need to, go back to a different part of the video, recap? Do you need to, so we can test the knowledge, choosing paths. So I think we've got branches on here. Yeah. Excellent. Really, really good. But so that's brilliant for the benefits. So we know what interactive video means to us and why we'd do it. Is there any reason why you wouldn't do it? Do you think? Now, Tom, I heard a comment that you mentioned in earlier on this week. I think it was Karen's session. Can we overuse interactivity?
Oh, I think I stand firmly on the yes side of that. 6 clicks to reveal 2 lines of text was my recent example, and my head kind of exploded when I was given that. But yeah, I think every tool is amazing at something and the worst possible way of delivering something else, right? It's that I always love the phrase, and it's not my phrase, I steal it, same as everything else. I steal it from Phil Lord David, and it's don't build the ark when a tugboat will do the job. And interactive video I always think is fantastic if there's a story, a narrative, something you need to get them very involved in. If, however, you just need to say, don't click that button, always click that button, just tell them that. You don't need a kind of branching scenario for that kind of interaction with the world.
Exactly. And I like, so Morgan, you've written time. You might want to expand on that. Is that time to create or time for the viewer to gain the knowledge or what they're looking for in that video? If you've, for example, you've chosen to watch a video because you need to do X. And if you've got to go through loads of steps, answer this question before you can move on. And, if it delays getting that knowledge, then I think that can be a disadvantage to the viewer. I'm not sure if that's what you meant, Morgan. But yeah. But the internet's a good one. Oh, timing. Yeah. Yeah. Some excellent points there. Yeah, absolutely. That cognitive load. Brilliant comments. Thank you so much for those. And there's sort of that, I've been told interactive video is really beneficial. I should add something, and it's sort of trying to step back and thinking, is it really needed? So using interactivity with purpose and intention, I think, making sure that it really needs to be there. But some really, really fantastic points there. So we're going to have a look at how we create interactive videos within Camtasia. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but there's certainly things that we can do within Camtasia. One thing that you need to be mindful of with Camtasia is where you're hosting your videos. So I don't know if you've had a chance to create some videos, maybe with a bit of interactivity, and then you've gone to play the MP4 when you've produced it, and your quiz is not there, or your table of contents is not there, for example. And so you need to be aware of where you're hosting them. And I'll go through that in a second. But within Camtasia, you have something called the Techsmith Smart Player. So this is what you need to be able to view that interactivity. So we'll go through where you can store it. So some of the interactions that you can do within Camtasia, the ones that I've personally done are things like building a quiz, making your content searchable, adding a table of contents. I've also made an invitation to a party with a video where it could be, you know, are you available? Do you have dietary requirements and things like that? So within Camtasia, you have these capabilities. So for those that have used Camtasia, what sort of, what have you used Camtasia? What videos have you created that have maybe used interaction? So we've already had some. We've had the branching scenarios, but there's some unusual ones, I think, that you could be thinking of using Camtasia. Terry, I'm feeling the love. I love Camtasia as well. Oh no, you're forced to use Premiere. Oh no. I think a useful one for me is making it searchable. So enabling the viewer to be able to jump to specific points in a video. So this is just a simple table of contents. I don't know if you've thought about doing that, especially for your longer videos.
That's really interesting, because obviously that's something that's super popular on platforms like YouTube. It's kind of putting those thumbnails in so you can jump straight to it, and it's not always the easiest thing to achieve in a lot of authoring tools.
Well, yeah. So we are there is a workaround, Tom, for YouTube. So yes, any interactivity that we do in Camtasia, unfortunately, doesn't go through to YouTube.
Yeah,
but there is a way we can do the table of contents.
And mostly, I'm just thinking, so often when we talk about video on like an LMS, people will go, yeah, but this LMS just isn't as good as YouTube. Why can't I have thumbnails? Why can't I have some level of click it to do this? I think this would be ideal for that, even without being able to send it to actual YouTube itself, but to bring in some of that style of functionality.
Absolutely. So shall we have a look? So one of the platforms that I use for storing videos that have got interactivity built with Camtasia, it's actually screencast.com. So screencast.com is Techsmith's own hosting platform. You automatically have the Techsmith Smart Player, so you don't need to upload anything special. But if you are uploading to your own learning management system, to a website, anything like that, it is possible. You just need to have the whole package, and we'll talk about that shortly. But what I'm going to do, Tom, if that's okay, is share my screen, and we'll have a look at a couple of examples that I've created with Camtasia. And I am going to share that screen. So this is what screencast.com looks like. So as I say, this is made from Techsmith. And within Camtasia, you have, when you export your video, you can say where you want it to be hosted, or whether you create a local one. So for this example, I've gone straight to Screencast. Now I've got two videos just to show you an example of some of the interactions I've added. Now this first one you might recognize from IDTX last year. Now, as you know, Tom does a fantastic job of sharing the replay videos, and mine was about 35 minutes, but what I thought would be quite useful is to break it down with a table of contents, because my content was very specific in sections, because I was going through productivity tips. So let me just show you what that would look like as a user. So at the moment, this is just a standard MP4. If it's just playing at the moment, but it's I've got the sound off. Oh, come on, play. I think the bandwidth is a bit short. But what you can see down at the bottom on my toolbar, I've added closed captions, which we should all be doing. But the reason for another reason is that the captions here would enable you to make your content searchable. The table of contents, I've programmed it to be switched off initially, but just by clicking on the table of contents, as you mentioned before, Tom, we were talking about thumbnails. It's a setting you can select to either show thumbnails or not. And so as I've gone through, these are the different topics that I was sharing last year. So I focused on keyboard shortcuts. So it will jump to that section that talks about the shortcuts. So I'm sure you're aware of, what a table of contents does, but I feel especially the longer videos, really handy for the viewer to be able to say, whilst I'd like to sit through 30 minutes, I want one specific thing. And so you can just jump to the ones that you need. So that's that, but you can also see the search up here. So because the captions are there, if I was to type in cursor, I talk about restoring the cursor location after we've paused the screen, after we've paused the recording, when we're screen recording. So again, we can just jump to that. It's a very simple, very basic, but it's giving the viewer a bit more control over viewing our content and getting to the content in the moment of need, I guess. What do you think about that? I mean, it's very, very simple. I'd be curious to see what your thoughts are. So that's just one example of just using a table of contents, adding the captions, making it searchable. If I go back to this one, this is just another example, and in a second we'll jump into Camtasia to see how these were built. This one is, I'll just talk you through it before I play it. In PowerPoint, you have an add-in for Camtasia. Now, if you record a PowerPoint presentation from within PowerPoint using your add-in, it automatically creates a table of contents for you using the title every time the title slide moves. So this is a really, it's not a proper recording. I've just used the PowerPoint slides that have come up. So if I just play this, it's only going to just take you through the slideshow very quickly. For the purpose of this, I've got a quiz. Okay, so I've programmed it that I'm going to take a quiz. You can customize the wording here. So let's take a quiz. Now, if you're all paying attention, watching those slides, which tab do you find the Camtasia recorder within PowerPoint? It went very quickly, so I don't expect you to all get that right. But did you spot what the tab was? It's not a trick question. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. But you're probably all thinking, I mentioned add-ins, so maybe it is add-ins. And then you can customize this blue button as well. And you can customize how you want the feedback. So you don't have to do feedback. In this one, I've said, we've got it right. And I've reinforced that the add-in tab is where you find the Camtasia recorder. Let's continue. And then we've got, you can record the screen, webcam, and microphone all at the same time from within PowerPoint. Is that true or false? Again, you might not have seen those PowerPoint slides. They whiz past a little bit, but you get the idea. It's stopped at the same point in the video, and I've asked 2 questions. So we can record the screen, webcam, and microphone all at the same time. When we continue, I've programmed it so we've got a summary of the quiz questions and answers, what I've got wrong, right. You can view questions, or I could continue the video. So let's see what happens when we continue the video. this is obviously for the purpose of this session today, just to demonstrate the different types of interactivity. So all I've done at the end of the video is added some text with a behavior, just so it came on in that little effective way, animated way. But what I've got here is a button that I've also made what we call the interactive hotspot. So the interactive hotspot you have within Camtasia, you can program what you want to do, what you want to enable the viewer to do by clicking on something. So here I've said the statement, communicate better with visuals and video. And if you want to learn more about that, this will take you to the techsmith.com website. Okay, I've also programmed it that it will open in another window. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of the capabilities. Another thing with PowerPoint is, I don't know if you spotted it, but I've got that table of contents again. So clicking on this, now I haven't added captions because there's no voiceover on this one. But cleverly, if you've got text on your screen for your PowerPoint slide, Camtasia makes that searchable. Okay, now I know a lot of us are now designing PowerPoint slides, mainly visuals, just with some key messaging. But there are occasions that you do have PowerPoint slides with a bit more text. So if I can't remember what I've got in my, what did I have? Webcam. Do I have webcam? Oh. So if I put camera in, you can see that it's finding those text that was on the slides. Who knew about that, hey? So again, so I could click on that and it would jump to that section. So it's just enabling or giving options. Obviously, I can just sit and watch the whole video. That's absolutely fine. But I really like that. I think that's really a neat little thing to offer. So quite simple, quite basic. Yeah, Tom. So what we're going to do now is jump into Camtasia, and I'll pause for any questions if you have any questions at the moment, but otherwise I'm going to jump into Camtasia and show you how it was built. Morgan, you've learned something new. Fantastic. Hopefully that might be beneficial to you. So let's jump into one of my favorite tools in my toolbox, and this is Camtasia for those that are seeing it for the very first time. Very similar to other authoring tools where you've got the timeline at the bottom with your playhead that you scrub through your content. You've got your canvas in the middle so you can view what's going to be in your final product. Now, I'm going to highlight where my cursor is. I'm just going to use my control. This little line just means that I can make my timeline a little bit bigger so you can see my tracks. I'm just going to, again, make my tracks a little bit bigger so you can see them a bit. Now, something that you might have spotted if you're not familiar with Camtasia are these little blue marks here. I've got a few blue marks and also a green mark. So I'm in the PowerPoint presentation. To get here, I've gone into PowerPoint, I've gone into the add-in, I've recorded the slides only, and then automatically when you bring it into Camtasia, it will say, do you want to create your table of contents? Now it's very hidden. If I click on this little icon here, who has experienced this where you're moving your cursor, your mouse along, and it's a green line and you accidentally keep clicking things? Who's done that? I know I did when I first started. The reason that those lines are on is simply because you've got your quiz view on. If you haven't got this little symbol here, it's a bit hidden. It just means you can turn that off and turn it on. Default is to open the quiz view. If you want to open the marker view, it's the little blue little symbol that you saw there. So Morgan, both of you, it's just one of those things, isn't it? But I just, yeah, get used to turning it off. Otherwise, you just have multiple markers all the way through. So if I make that a bit bigger, hopefully you can see this. So let's see how we created that. So from the PowerPoint, I've got the marker here. So I had 4 slides, and then the green one is the quiz. Then I had some text that came onto the screen, and then I had that button. Because the markers have come across automatically, it brings in the title of the slide. So I can click on the marker, and if you're not familiar with Camtasia, you'll get your properties always open on the right-hand side where you can change them. So here is record a presentation. I can change that if I wanted to. Now, if I decided, well, it's probably not a very good example, but if I wanted to add another marker, I can just, by clicking on the plus, add another marker. There are also keyboard shortcuts, which I'm a fan of keyboard shortcuts. And if you didn't see Joseph Suarez's keyboard shortcuts session last night, it wasn't Camtasia, but really, really useful ones. Check that session out. So clicking on here, it will show you what those keyboard shortcuts are. So this is your marker view to open and close. To add a marker, you can do Shift. Oh, if I move my playhead across, Shift and M would add a marker. Now, can you see it's slightly different? Do you know why, for those that use markers, why it might be slightly different? So it's taken it up onto the top of the timeline rather than the piece of media. So when you use Shift M, it automatically takes it to the timeline. But if I'm going to use Shift and just move this, it'll move everything on there. Can you see the marker remains the same? So sometimes, so I was just clicking on Shift just to move all media on track 1. So what I did on these ones is that, well, the PowerPoint ones anyway, just cancel that, is that you would click down here on the top of the piece of media. So then it's added marker 3. So I'll just leave it as marker 3 just so you can see. But again, now if I click on Shift just to move that, you can see it moves with that piece of media. So that's a key difference. I'll just Control Z just to undo that. We don't want that there. Any questions on markers? Does that seem fairly, I mean, it's quite straightforward to set up. You're just adding your marker in the position of either the timeline or the media, depending on whereabouts you want it. And then I'll take you through production in a minute where you can customize how that table of contents looks. No, if not, great so far, Tom, thank you. So let's have a look at the quiz. So if I'm going to change to quiz view, Control Q. So this time it'll be a green line again, accidentally clicking on the lines. Same thing. If you want a quiz at this part of the video, you add it to your timeline. If you want it specifically to this media, just in case it moves, then you do exactly the same as what you did before. But let's have a look. So we know that we've got one here. So I'm just going to click that to open that. Let's just make, don't know, hopefully that's big enough for you. So what I've done here is that I've given it a name. So I've said the test your knowledge. You can be creative, obviously. And all I've done is add the questions. Now, it is fairly basic in the types of things that you can ask. These are your choices. You've got multiple choice, fill in the blank, short answer, or true and false. Now, it's a whole nother session, isn't it? Creating useful, purposeful quizzes and questioning. But, you know, these are the types of things that you can build within Camtasia. So in our example, we had multiple choice, and then we had a true and false. So all you're going to do is just type in your question. You've got here, add answer. So if there was another one, I could add something in here. I don't know what the other ones are, even if I spelt it correct. Now, further down, so I'm just going to scroll down. This is where you can see display feedback. You have a choice. Do you want to give them feedback? Again, make sure that it's useful feedback. Use it as an opportunity to reinforce that learning. You've then got an action. When they've got the question correct, what do you want them to do? So you've got the option to continue. So that would just continue playing the video. Do you want to jump to a website, for example? Or do you want to jump to a marker? So we've got markers in our video. So it could be, so the markers are used for multiple things, your table of contents, but also guidance through the video so you can jump to these parts. You can also jump to a specific time. So really good in that you can have the different options there. And then, of course, you've got what happens when they get it wrong. What do you want to do? Sorry, I've got a silly little fly. So if incorrect, add in your feedback. I couldn't think last night what was good. Nice, friendly feedback, but there you go. So on here, I've got jump to the marker. And I've said incorrect, check again. So what would then happen is if they get that wrong, it will jump to the record a presentation marker, because I said I want it to go to a marker. And that one, if I just go back, this little icon, I don't know if you know this one, it shrinks and it shows you everything on your timeline. So this was the, I'll go to marker view. It will replay that piece of video. So let's go back to, and then it's got, do you want to add another question? So this is just how you build it up. What do you think? Is that, I mean, I know you're probably all creating maybe questions and testing in your learning management system, but this is just an alternative that you can do. Especially, you know, if you're uploading to a website, for example, and you don't have the capability within, you don't have access to a learning management system. So yeah, just add question. So any questions on quizzing? You're very quiet this morning. Hopefully you're getting some key takeaways.
And just while we're waiting for some questions from the chat there, something I was just thinking about. Often one of the big challenges in some tools is limitations on how many times you can break things up, or kind of how laborsome that can become, shall we say, when you know, if you want 30 markers or 30 sections, you end up with 30 slides, for instance. So I'm guessing here this always just remains linear, more of a video editor approach as opposed to slide based. And are there any kind of limitations on how many markers or how many questions you can ask within one interactive video, other than the obvious, you know, if it's 90% questions, it's probably not a video at that point.
Yeah, really useful thoughts. I don't think there is a maximum, but I think, yeah, with the viewer in mind, as you say, yeah, 90 questions. What I quite like is that you can space it out along the video. I think it's just, yeah, building it with intention. I don't think there are limitations. Or you can, I mean, yeah, if we're going to have a quiz every few minutes, that could be your intention, and it, you know, it might be relevant. So you don't have to wait till the end. But yeah, potentially you could have multiple. I guess the more interactivity you have, your bigger your file size is going to be. So you might have limitations that way. Again, I think the comment in the chat, bandwidth when someone's playing the video. But as anything we L&Ders sort of create, it's making sure it's purposeful, it's there because it needs to be there, it has a reason for being in there. But
got a couple of questions coming in now. So Morgan's asked, can you save questions in a library, as that would be a time saver?
So like the whole quiz in a library. I don't know the answer to that. So anywhere in Camtasia, the library, if you've not used the library, fantastic resource to save frequently used items. So let's say this quiz, for example, my initial thought would be to right click. There's always lots of right clicks within Camtasia. So I'm just, but it's not, it's just an edit questions, delete the quiz. I might have to take that one away, Morgan. I don't think so, but Techsmith are brilliant at listening to what viewers want or what editors want. And so on their website, techsmith.com, there is an area where you can put in feature requests. So definitely pop it there. I don't think so, but if I find out different, I'll let you know, Morgan. Thank you for your question.
We do have another one. Mohammed asks, is it possible to make some short answers in one moment of the timeline?
So I guess, does that mean, so where I've added the quiz marker along here on the timeline, you would then select the short answer? Is that what you're thinking, possibly? What sort of short answer? What question? Put me on the spot about what could be a short question. Have a short answer.
He did follow it up and ask, is there no possibility for drag and drop questions? I don't think Camtasia does do that, do they?
No.
But that's okay, because drag and drop questions are bad. Sorry, that's my personal bias against drag and drop questions.
It's the accessibility thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, well, not accessibility thing, but you know what I mean. It's yeah.
It's easy to think, oh well, you just grab the mouse and we'll stop right there. There are a lot of people who can't do that. And at that point, I've seen some sterling attempts to make mouseless drag and drop designs. They're awful. I'm sorry, they just are. But
so let's see what that would look like. So I've just add what's the best. So what should we say? What's the best video editor? What we if I say, is that the sort of thing that you were looking for, Mohammed? I'm not quite sure I've understood completely.
So just while we're waiting to hear back from him there, actually, that's the ability to put some kind of like a short text answer in is a fantastic kind of reflection opportunity as well there, to ask them to stop and think about what they've just heard. And because I'm guessing with it being a question, there's at least the potential, if you wanted to get reporting on answers.
Just going to cover that, Tom. That's brilliant.
Fantastic.
No, I'm so pleased that you reminded me, because I'm aware of the time, but it's something really important in the quizzing. You're absolutely right. You can what's the word? The reporting, you can set it up so one person gets an email daily every time that video is completed. So when I made a video for course feedback, and it really, so I used to get a report after a course, and you could gain, so it wasn't scoreable, so you can either score them or you can just make it like a survey. So you don't. So we will jump into, because I'm aware of the time, so I'm going to come on to production in a second, and before I do, that hotspot we talked about. So the hotspot, you can do this for so many different things. I'm sure you've really got some ideas already. What do you want them to do? Do you want to go off and find more information? Going back to the beginning of our session, could it be a branching scenario? What do you want? What have you come to look, search for today? Do you want to learn about interactive videos with Camtasia, or do you want to look at how to record your screen? You can give options, and these, if I show you what it looks like, this is only a text call out box. I have gone to visual effects, and in visual effects I have added interactive hotspot to that piece of media. So I'm going to come back to quizzing and producing in a second, but before we do, can you see where my playhead is? There's a little cursor, a little triangle at the bottom. This tells me what I have, what effects I have on this piece of media. And one of them is the interactive hotspot. So if I click on that, it will then show me that in the properties. And so what I've done here is I've said I want it to go to a URL. I want it to open in a new browser. And I've typed in that. But you do have other options. So it could be that you've got a video that has different elements. You know, when we go back to that branching, do you want them to go and do, you know, take that path? Then you could have further on in your timeline that content. So you could jump to this content a specific time. It could be that you just want to pause it to enable them to read some text. Let's not make our videos heavy text, guys, but sometimes there are occasions where you want them to read something. So then they can control when they're ready to move on. So it could be click here to continue, for example, or select to continue. Lots of different possibilities. What I'm going to do is just go into how to produce this, because we've got a few things on here. We've got the markers for table of contents, we've got the quiz, and we've also got an interactive hotspot. Up on the top right here, we've got export, and these were the different options we have. Now, I mentioned you needed that Techsmith Smart Player. So screencast.com was what I previously used for the videos in our demonstration. You'll also, if anyone uses Panopto, you've got that embedded link now. You can upload straight away to Panopto. You've got Vimeo and YouTube, but what will happen is it will tell me I've got interactivity in here that will not work with these platforms. So for if you're doing on your website or your learning management system, I'm just going to go down into a local file because I want to show some of these settings. So in here, this is where you have your smart player. So if you don't have interactivity, save yourself some file space. You don't need the extra files. You can just do a box standard MP4. But if you've got the interactivity, you need to be making sure that you're doing it with the smart player. So I'm just going, and it will tell you exactly what's included and what's not included. So going back to your question, Tom, brilliant. How do you find out those results? So you can choose that you want to report the quiz results through an email. You can use SCORM. You've got the capabilities of setting up your SCORM packages. This is where you put in your email to receive those responses. You can control how does your quiz look. Do you want the quiz just to be anonymous? You know, sometimes people don't want to put in their names all the time, do they? So you can stop that. So let me just click on. Oh. I could have probably said don't bother doing email, but there we go. Oh, let's do that then. Sorry. Actually, it's not come through. I wanted to show you some of the other. Let me take you through with a slightly different one. The custom production's got a few more settings. Oh, come on. Oh. I don't know why it's not letting me select. Sorry, guys, I don't know why. Why are you not letting me? I wonder if it's screen sharing. Oh, there we go. Bit dodgy. There we go. It's already defaulted to Smart Player. The reason I've chosen this is because there's some extra tabs. So just very quickly to let you know that they're in here. Interactivity, table of contents, your captions, you need to make sure that you have producing with a controller. Under here, this is where you have control of what do you want to show, how do you want it to view, do you want your table of contents straight away and things like that. Do you want to make it searchable? Why wouldn't you? You know, and things like that. So sorry, I know I've rushed that last bit. I know there's a couple of questions there, Tom. The last thing I want to share with you, we talked about the interactivity and YouTube. So we know we don't have that capability. However, just as a little workaround for YouTube, it will prompt me because it's saying, hang on, you've got quizzes. These are not compatible with YouTube, but I'm just going to ignore that and click OK. The bit that you need to be aware of, this little box down here, really important, create table of contents from markers. So if you do have markers, what this then does when you open up YouTube, you've probably all seen those little timestamps. So it will create timestamps in your description in YouTube for you. So my last tip for there. We could talk for ages. Oh, yes, I want to cancel. Tom, was that okay? I'm sorry, I've whizzed through that last bit, and I know there's some questions, but hopefully the objective was to sort of give you an insight into interactive videos and the capabilities within Camtasia.
Definitely. That last point is an incredible time saver. Because anyone who's ever sat and added timestamps to, I don't know, let's say 26 conference videos on a Sunday, this is now how I'm doing that. Fantastic. One question, I wanted to make sure we didn't miss it. Here we go. It's about the quizzing one quickly. It's big frustration is that you can only have one generic feedback for incorrect choices in quizzes, and it is whether or not Camtasia allows you to have answer specific feedback, I think.
No. Well, let's go back. It does, I will admit, it has its limitations. You know, I've sort of shown you, you know, the capabilities, but let's just go back to that, see if there was anything you might spot something else. If we did something incorrect. So I don't know how many, if incorrect, sorry, little fly. I don't know how many characters you get in here. I guess you could, if you wanted to jump to a specific area or a URL, or, you know, open this PDF for more clarification or something like that. Could that work?
That's it. Yeah, you could almost, especially as this is a kind of a video-focused approach, really within Camtasia, you could have it jump to markers from the feedback point and have different markers set for, well, you're only going to see this bit of video if you get it wrong or selected this choice and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that would work just as well. But I agree. I think all tools have limitations. I mean, you get the prime example of Storyline will do multiple feedback based on choice. However, editing video in it is appalling. It's not even worth trying to do. So it, you know, your job becomes twice as long because you have to open up a tool like Premiere, let's say. Whereas here, I think you have the benefit of, okay, you're going to have to use maybe jumping around to markers for some feedback options, but the actual bulk of the video stuff is so much easier. And I think that's one of the things I found with the Smart Player as well, is that we talked earlier about bandwidth and internet connectivity. If you export it with the Smart Player, you can open it up locally on your device, and it still has all that interactivity with it. So you could actually send those files to someone, because I think it wasn't that long ago we kind of think, oh, well, people without internet connectivity, it's not going to come up that often. I was working with a school in London who were just like, yeah, about 30% of people here don't have internet connectivity. It's like, oh, didn't expect that. It's a much bigger problem than we perceive it to be.
True.
Brilliant. Well, I think that this has been fantastic. I know I've definitely learned loads that I'm going to go and try and use in the next couple of weeks. If anyone has any questions, now is the time. And Jane, if we want to learn more, I know you share tons of really helpful Camtasia stuff. Where can we find it?
So I'm on LinkedIn. Please do connect. I love learning from you just as much as, you know, you're learning from me. I'm on Twitter at Jane Davids, and I've run a Camtasia Meetup actually every third Wednesday of each month. So the next meetup is coming up on Wednesday. It's global. You're all welcome. We geek out on video and Camtasia. 6 p.m. GMT. So you're always more welcome. Yeah, completely agree. I think, Tom, you probably feel my passion. I've used it for about 10 years, and it just does what I need it to do. It has, it has its limitations, but for what screencasting, and if you haven't seen Emmett's session, he did a great session yesterday on screencasting. So check that out too. But thank you so much, Tom. This has been a fabulous few days, and I've been gutted that I've missed some of the sessions because of work. But I'm here today, so I will be networking. If you want to send me a private message, pick up some questions that you might have, then yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for all of that. I'm really sorry, guys, but our next one is actually me. So buckle up.
I'm definitely hanging around for that one.
Just bear in mind that I'm going to take just a tiny bit of the credit for everyone else's work, and that's going to offset what you're about to sit through. So I will see you all back here in just about 10 minutes time. Until then, thank you very much.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Tom. Bye.